Teacher tells boy he'll never succeed. Then Barron Trump proves her wrong. Imagine a young boy sitting in the back of a classroom, his head lowered as the teacher's words cut through the silence. You will never succeed. You're just not good. Enough. The other students shift uncomfortably in their seats, some exchanging glances, but no one dares to speak up. The boy clenches his fists under the desk, his heart pounding. He doesn't argue. He doesn't protest. But deep inside, something ignites, a fire that will burn for years to come. Fast forward to the future. The same boy, once doubted, once dismissed, now stands in a place no one expected. His name? Barron Trump. From the son of one of the most talked about leaders in the world to carving his own path, Barron's journey is nothing short of extraordinary. He wasn't just handed success. He had to prove himself. And that moment, the moment where he would finally silence the doubts and prove that teacher wrong, was coming. But what really happened in that classroom? What words were spoken that planted the seed of determination? And how did Barron go from a boy underestimated to a figure who left the world in awe? Stay with me, because this story is about more than just one person. It's about the power of belief, resilience, and proving that no one, not even a teacher, gets to decide your future. The story begins. The classroom had never been a place of comfort for him. It was supposed to be where young minds grew, where questions were encouraged, where dreams took shape. But for Barron, it often felt like a test he hadn't been given the answers to. The words of his teacher still echoed in his mind, heavier than the weight of the textbook stacked on his desk. You will never succeed. The statement wasn't just cruel. It was a challenge. A challenge Barron hadn't asked for, but one he would remember. He didn't argue, didn't react, but inside something shifted. That fire, the quiet determination, in his heart grew stronger. Outside the classroom, the world saw him as just another kid with a famous last name, the son of a billionaire, the child of a former president. But inside those school walls, he was just Barron. And like any other kid, he faced expectations, assumptions, and pressure. Some teachers encouraged him, but others saw only his name, not his potential. To some, he wasn't a student. He was a headline waiting to happen. The teacher who told him he would never succeed wasn't the first to doubt him, and she wouldn't be the last. Maybe she believed she was just being honest. Maybe she had seen too many students with privilege assume they didn't have to work hard. Or maybe, just maybe, she had already decided who Barron Trump was before she even gave him a chance. But Barron didn't waste time explaining himself. He didn't argue or try to prove her wrong right then and there. He simply took a deep breath and did what he always did. He listened, he observed, and he learned. Not just from books or lessons, but from people. From the way they spoke, the way they treated others, the way they carried themselves. He saw kindness, and he saw cruelty. He saw encouragement, and he saw doubt, and he filed it all away, piece by piece, shaping his own understanding of the world. At home, life was different. The Trump family was always in the public eye. Cameras flashed, reporters speculated, and opinions were thrown like darts. But inside the walls of their home, there were moments of normalcy, conversations over dinner, lessons from his parents, words of wisdom from his father, reminders from his mother to stay true to himself. But even at home, the pressure never fully disappeared. The world expected something from him. Some assumed he would follow in his father's footsteps. Others believed he would crumble under the weight of his name. Few bothered to ask what he wanted. As he grew older, Barron found his own passions, his own ambitions. He wasn't just the quiet boy sitting in the back of the class anymore. He was becoming something more, something greater than anyone had predicted. But the real test was still ahead. The moment that would push him beyond his limits. The moment that would decide whether that teacher's words would haunt him forever or become the very thing that fueled his rise. And that moment was coming soon. Years passed, but Barron never forgot those words. They weren't something he dwelled on every day, but they stayed with him, buried deep in his mind like a challenge waiting to be answered. The world continued watching him, expecting him to either rise or fall. But Barron wasn't focused on proving people wrong. He was focused on proving himself right. He poured himself into his passions, sharpening his skills, learning, growing. He stayed out of the spotlight as much as he could. Not because he was afraid, but because he understood something most people didn't. Real success doesn't come from proving your critics wrong. It comes from becoming the person you were meant to be. And then, one day, the moment came. It wasn't a dramatic confrontation. There was no grand speech, no scene straight out of a movie. Instead, it was something simple, yet more powerful than any argument could ever be. Barron had built something meaningful. His work, his ideas, his dedication had led him to a place no one had expected. And in that moment, standing before a crowd of people who had come not because of his name, but because of his achievements, he realized something. He had won. Not against the teacher who doubted him, not against the critics who had dismissed him, but against the version of himself who once wondered if they were right. And somewhere, maybe in a quiet moment of reflection, that teacher who once told him he would never succeed heard his name again. Maybe she remembered the words she had spoken all those years ago. Maybe she saw what he had accomplished. And maybe, just maybe, she realized she had been wrong. But Barron didn't need her to say it. He didn't need an apology. He didn't need validation from anyone. Because in the end, success isn't about proving someone else wrong. It's about proving to yourself that you were always capable. As he walked off that stage, away from the applause, away from the expectations of the world, he knew one thing for sure. His story was just beginning.